Hello Cherries fans, we are back. It's good to have domestic football back. The international break was a difficult watch. I didn't actually watch any of it, thank goodness. It looked appalling from the highlights. Alas, AFC Bournemouth are travelling up to Bramall Lane on Saturday. This is the first of two parts. Tomorrow myself and Tom are getting together to talk over the game from an AFC Bournemouth perspective, but this is all about the opposition preview. And you know what? Some are calling this a six-pointer. Do you think it is? We need to talk about it. So to talk about it, we've got Nick here from the Sheffield United Way YouTube channel, the Blades place to be for all things Sheffield United. Nick, how you doing, sir? You all right?
I'm very good, thank you. And I didn't even have to tell you to say that. What a man.
What a man. What can I say? So then, talk me through your season. Last season, of course, Burnley won it by a country mile. You were on, 91 points, and then Luton on 80. So you won it. Well, I mean, you got promoted pretty easily in the end. And then in most media pundits' world, you, Luton, not so much Burnley, but you were all sort of tipped for relegation. Blades fans can't have been overly happy though with a certain transfer business that went on pre-season. I mean, not least a certain Sander Berge getting sold to your rivals pre-season. What was that all about?
You say that, and at the time, no, we definitely weren't very happy. But he divides the fan base. He's the player that divides the fan base the most I've ever seen, because on his day, Sander Berge is one of the best players I've seen at Bramall Lane, but that day doesn't happen too often. So it's very, very frustrating to watch him week on week. There's a saying within Sheffield United fans that if Sander Berge barges a player within 5 minutes of a game or 2 minutes of a game, he's up for it. If he doesn't, he's not. And that's how he is. He's very good on the ball. He's very good with it driving forward, but he was brought in as a defensive midfielder, and he's just not that player. He will never be that player. But so Burnley, I think it seems like they're transitioning into playing him in the right position, a bit further forward, where he can and do the damage. But yeah, it wasn't just him. It was obviously Iliman and Jai as well that we sold, who is our star boy. Like, letting him go was heartbreaking. He went to the club that he supported as a boy. He's a Senegalese national player, but he grew up in France supporting Marseille. And if anybody else would have come in for him, he wouldn't have left. But he had to go and leave to his boyhood club. It went back and forth so much that we thought we were going to have him for the start of the season, and then we didn't. So we had to kind of move players around a little bit and bring in some players that we probably wouldn't have normally. So yes, a lot of the lazy pundits say that we sold our two best players every single time, and it's a massive disrespect to a lot of the other players that we've got. But at the same time, it was two very valuable players that we did let go really, really close to the start of the season, and that's the reason for me why we started so slowly.
Yeah, and at that time, I think you start to realise, as Bournemouth fans thought, in the Championship, it was great. We were winning most weeks, and we always said that the journey's better than the destination, because when you get to the Premier League, whilst it's a brilliant place to be, you're losing most weeks, unfortunately. But I've been looking at your results. Apart from 2 games this season, no one's really blown you away. Like, I'm not going to mention that result that you had, but there was also a 5-0 as well. But when that last minute loss to Forest, Spurs, I can't believe how unlucky you were in that. I mean, it's like 2 goals in stoppage time. Man City game, yes, it was at home, but it was a close 2-1. And also Man United left it relatively late as well. It must surely give you encouragement that you're always a team that sort of in games.
Yeah, absolutely. I think early on in the season, when we were picking up less points, I was actually going away from games thinking, do you know what? On another day, we could have won that game, or we could have drawn that game. The Man City game, like you say, we should have got a point out of that game. There's no two ways about it. Yeah, they missed a lot of chances, but you need to ride your luck. And when you've got one of the worst teams on paper in the Premier League, which most teams when they get promoted do have, you've got to ride your luck. And so many negative Blades fans that think that, oh, well, we got lucky in that game because they didn't hammer us. And it's like, well, no, you've got to ride your luck. most teams have got to ride the luck in this division against the Man Cities of the world. And we were close with them. Everton as well. We were, a Jordan Pickford fingertip away from taking all 3 points away against them. I think if that would have happened, the Newcastle game wouldn't have happened. I know you didn't want to mention it, but obviously I've mentioned it a little bit. It was a complete freak result for me, but these results that happen in the past in the Premier League, quite often, they galvanise the team and they're like, we're not going to let that happen again. And it actually threw us off a little bit, and we've not really recovered from it. Even though we've obviously picked 3 points up against, I'm trying to think who it is now. We've played so many teams and got beaten that, Wolves, we picked up the 3 points against Wolves, but that could have gone either way. But I think in this, even when we finished 9th in the Premier League a few years ago, a lot of those games were within 1 goal. And sometimes you pick those 3 points, sometimes you don't. And when I think kind of losing these games by 1 goal kind of breeds that negativity and breeds that we're going to concede, especially with how many last-minute goals that we've conceded this season already. So hopefully we've seen a little bit of a upturn for us. Obviously, you're not thinking that going into this game, but I keep saying that we are unbeaten in November, which let's hope we carry that on. Because
that's right.
We've certainly lost a lot of games this season.
I suppose, yeah, if you think about it, if you are losing games, by the odd goal, it probably actually makes it all the more frustrating rather than getting whipped like 3-4-0 every week. Being in games, I certainly think is a good thing. Now, in some ways, you're quite similar to us recently. I mean, for instance, in our last 2 home games, we beat Burnley just about, and then we beat Newcastle United 2-0, but they were really lightweight. So in your last couple of games, you've beaten Wolves, albeit some say with a debatable penalty. And then you played Brighton, who were down to 10 men, maybe having a Europa hangover, and you rescued a point. So because of that, based on the last couple of games, Blades fans at the moment, are their optimism levels like high because of the results, or are you maybe aware that you did manage to pick up points in a bit of a, I don't want to say it, but fortuitous way?
Well, I'll give you a bit of an insight into me. I'm a very realistic fan, whereas like if we've not played well, I will say it, and vice versa. I think the fan base right now are really, really mixed because yes, we beat Wolves. We were so much better against Wolves in the second half than we were in the first. In the first half, we were dreadful. In the first half of the Brighton game, we were dreadful. We could barely string 2 or 3 passes together. We barely had a shot on target. I don't think we had a shot on target until they had a man sent off. So,
yeah, that's right.
Yes, we've picked up 4 points in 2 games, which is fantastic. And at the end of the day, in this division, you need the points. No matter how you play, you just need the points to try and kind of lift you out of the bottom 3. But there's still an air of negativity, shall we say, because we're not playing too well as of right now, even though we are picking points up. But hopefully it'll kind of, like I say, push us in the right direction. Even though we're not playing well, we seem to be picking up a few points.
You've probably got the external factor thing as well. Like we've had a by our standards, and I don't know what our standards even are under our new manager, but I think in our heads we've set ourselves relatively high standards and we haven't been reaching it. But the thing is, we've been lucky because we've always been able to say, well, there's 3 worse teams than us this season. And now with the Everton factor as well, that has now maybe boosted our optimism, whereby really we're thinking, hang on a sec, let's just rein it back in a little bit because, we need to focus on ourselves here and our own performances haven't been great. I expect Sheffield United fans welcomed that 10-point deduction, did you?
Yeah. To be perfectly honest, mate, I don't see Everton finishing in the bottom 3 anyway, with how they've started. So I don't. They're obviously in a false position because of the 10-point deduction, but I think they'll find themselves out of the bottom 3 within a few games with the way that they're playing. I just kind of hope. I don't hope this on anybody, but obviously with us, both our teams being down near the bottom, all I can hope is that the players play like a bottom 3 side, and that kind of knocked the duck off a little bit. They've had 10 points ripped away from them that they've actually earned this season. So they've done really well. I think they'll continue to do really well. But yeah, we definitely welcomed that, and the fact that we've gone from bottom to 3rd bottom within like 1 week, which is fantastic to see because we were bottom for a long time.
Yeah, I've been watching some of your games on Match of the Day, and there's a few highlights packages, and you seem to be pressing a lot higher at the moment. Whereas in some games previously, I've seen you sitting back and it wasn't really working for you. When you do press high, you do seem to get a little bit of luck from it.
Yeah, to be perfectly honest, I think we started the season really slowly because we didn't have the players in at the time. So I think that's kind of not really helped us develop a new sort of strategy, because last season it was give the ball to William and I and see what he does with it, because he's that good. And then you've got James McAtee, we had Tommy Doyle, Ollie McBurney, really good players around him that when they put 2 players on Illiman and I, then your other players come into it a little bit more because they've got a bit more space. This season, we've had to kind of try and develop a different way of playing, because he was so crucial to us last season, and he was half of our style of play, if you like. So I think we're just still trying to get to know the new players and figuring out what they're good at, what they're not. We should have really known that before we signed them. But obviously, you don't know how they're going to all gel together, and some have and some haven't. But we certainly are pressing a lot higher, like you said, in the last few games. I think we were sat off and hoping for 0-0 towards the kind of last 20 minutes of the game, 50 minutes of the game. And that was kind of like the plan, which is never a plan for me. Like when we got promoted to the Premier League with Chris Wilder, we just took teams by surprise and took the league by storm. And I want to see more of that. I think we've almost been a little bit too we didn't want to see that, because now we just expect it or want it, and we've gone back to being that team that's got promoted and we're struggling. Hopefully, I think in the Newcastle game, early on in the game, we were pushing so high and trying to do that we got caught loads of times early on, and they didn't even score from these chances. So I think against the better teams, you kind of got to sit back a little bit. I think against Man United at home, we actually took it to them and got in the faces, and it worked really well for us. But maybe we just tired towards the end, which I think that's happened a lot this season. Obviously, evidently from conceding late goals as well.
Yeah, certainly when you've got that high press, when you're playing against teams like Newcastle, it's like a red rag to a bull, really, in some ways, because they love to play teams like that, and we do as well at the moment as well. So that's why I'm really intrigued to see how it transpires on Saturday. Now, I'll just ask you for a one-word answer here. I've seen a lot of conjecture on the Twitter Blades hashtag. Hecky in or Hecky out? Is he the man to do the job for you?
You're asking for a one-word answer.
Yeah,
I'm so on the fence. I'm so on the fence about this. If you're pushing me, Hecky out. But that's nothing to do with him. I think he's struggled. I think he's been unlucky with the sale of Sander and Illiman, and then not quite the players coming in, not quite getting the system straight away, and maybe us not knowing what system to play with these players. I would want to see him in for the rest of the season. As I think before we'd picked up these the 4 points the last 2 games, he needed to go. But now we've kind of got a little bit of momentum. Give him a few more games. If we then go on and lose to you and lose to Burnley, I think we're having a different conversation.
True.
But like I said, I'm so on the fence. Like, I want to see him there for the rest of the season. I want him to do well. I'm not one of these fans that's like, get him out, get him out.
Yeah.
But I think if you continue to lose lots and lots of games of football, that's when it's like, maybe we need a change.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what happens. It's fair to say it's a 6-pointer maybe already on Saturday. So yeah, it's a huge game. If you're gonna give us a couple of players that we should be looking out for, maybe ones that fly under the radar a bit for the Blades, who would you be recommending?
I think they all fly under the radar in the Premier League, really, the players that we've got. Gus Harmer, fantastic player. You probably know a little bit about him from his Coventry days. Love Gus Harmer. He's not been great in the last few weeks. When we first signed him, he was phenomenal. I just love watching him play football. Cameron Archer is obviously always going to be a danger. Ollie McBurney is hopefully back for this game. He was certainly in the first half of the season before the drubbing by Newcastle, he was certainly the player that was linking up the play, and that's always been that player that we've always needed, that player in this kind of 5-3-2 formation, that one player to kind of sit between the midfield and the attack almost. I'm not saying he does that. He's obviously a striker, but he drops, wins the ball, holds on to it, and brings other players into the game. So hopefully Ollie McBurney is back for this game. He has been injured for a few, so he may be on the bench even if he is back. We've had so many injuries this season, to be perfectly honest. I couldn't really throw another name at you because I think they're all kind of workhorses in our side. Yeah. I don't really think there's anyone ultra special other than Gus Harmer for me, and maybe a little bit of sprinkling of Cameron Archer.
He was brilliant when we played him, when we played Coventry in our promotion season. He was absolutely exemplary for them. All right then, Nick, I'll trouble you for a prediction. Go on, what are you going for?
I think I've got to go for a Blades win. I think my head's telling me this could be a draw. My head's telling me that Bournemouth could come to Bramall Lane and beat us. It's one of them games where anything can happen, and it depends who turns up, us or you guys. I'm going to go for a 2-1 Blades win. I don't think we haven't kept a clean sheet this season, so I can't sit here and say 1-0 to the Blades. So, but I'm going to say 2-1 to the Blades anyway.
Love it. Nick, thanks so much. Just tell us again where we can find your stuff.
Yep, I run a channel called The Sheffield United Way. It is Sheffield United Way everywhere. So if you type in Sheffield United Way, that's us. Most people put Sheffield United Way in. So either, whatever you want to put in, it'll come up. And we have match reactions, match previews, podcasts with ex-players. So I don't know why I'm saying this. You always get asked this question. No Bournemouth fans going over to Sheffield United fans.
You never know. You never know.
Maybe a match reaction if you've beaten us.
Yeah, brilliant. Nick, thanks so much for coming on. Really appreciate it.
Cheers, mate.
Yeah, look, if you get the chance to check out Sheffield United Way, it's fantastic. They won a couple of football content awards, like 2 years on the trot. Not so successful this year, but yeah, really good channel. Do make sure you click the link in the description below. Now, just a message to Cherries fans that during the game at Bramall Lane, there are going to be a couple of applauses going on the 17th, but also the 37th minute as well. One of them on the 17th minute for Josh, a big Blades fan. And also on the 37th minute as well, Sheffield United fans are invited to get involved in a minute's applause, as with Cherries fans, of course, to remember Matt Hardy, who is another devoted Blade that sadly passed away recently. So look at the scoreboard, 17th and 37th minute. Big weekend for AFC Bournemouth. It's a huge game. If you hit the like and subscribe button, there'll be the option to then click the bell, and once you do that, we'll ping you next time we post a video, and that'll be tomorrow with myself and Tom, where we're going to get together. We're going to take a look at the game from a Cherries perspective, take a look at what's been happening in the last week or so, but also we'll predict both teams as well as giving you our scores. Plus we give it the usual back of the net treatment with fan cams at full time on Saturday. We've got the vlog for you on Sunday, and maybe even a cheeky second look on the Monday. Up the Cherries. See you at the next one.